Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards, going solo once again. Nathan Hurst is on assignment in his basement, drinking a beer, watching his kids, being a good, loving husband. We got a treat for you today. We are joined by the blog father himself, Bill Connelly, ESPN's Bill Connelly, author of 3 books, proprietor of SP+. He came around our parts to talk about Missouri football. You don't really get to hear a whole lot about Bill's thoughts on Mizzou. Obviously, he's a national writer at this point, but even with all the books and all the big boy ESPN affiliations, he's still Tiger at heart. So I brought him by just to pick his brain on what he thinks about Eli Drinkwitz, on the program at large. Go by position to get his thoughts on that and what he's thinking of the Mizzou season and what SP Plus sees when you open the hood and look at the advanced numbers. So it's a rare treat to get him on, and we're very excited for being able to talk to him and appreciate his time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. Here's my conversation with Bill Connelly. Missouri Tiger fans, it's your boy Nate Edwards with the blog father, the father of SP+, the father of Rock M Nation, Bill Connelly, ESPN's Bill Connelly, author of 3 books now. If you've been paying attention to any of his social media, you've been seeing him doing his spots and pushing his book. Can't wait to read it. But he's a busy man, and he loves Missouri so much that he's going to come in here and he's going to talk about our crappy little local team instead of with all the big wigs and the blue bloods. So, Bill, welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
It's been probably like exactly a year if I had to guess, but something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, so, we've, Mizzou's done a lot. Obviously, I had a full football season since we spoke. And, we read so much about your college football takes. We don't really always get you isolated from Mizzou stuff. So I guess, we're going to start off with the local questions, and we're going to dive into it here. But what are your thoughts on Mizzou's 10-win 2024 season that somehow felt disappointing?
I mean, I get the disappointment just from the, when you're a team that isn't, kind of guaranteed a shot at like a top 12-ish kind of playoff-ish finish, when you have what seems to be a prime opportunity and it comes up short, obviously that's going to have a little bit of disappointment. But I mean, when you've also only had like 8 10-win seasons ever, it's pretty damn good. Like for a disappointing season, this was pretty fantastic. The defense, I think, was better than I thought. Obviously, that just kind of offset an offense not being as good as I thought. But it was a solid season. It was funny watching Missouri fans react. What I wrote in my previews, what I've mentioned a lot over the last few months is just nobody goes 10-1 forever. You can't win almost every close game year after year after year after year. And they're 10-1 in 1-score games these last 2 years. That inevitably has some sort of, karmic backlash at some point. Although I guess you could say this was the backlash for the bad breaks of 21 and 22. But regardless, it's going to even out. You're not going to win this many. But it was funny after the South Carolina game watching Mizzou fans kind of lose their minds and get super mad about the one close game they've lost in 2 years. Like, my God, it's going to happen more. Like, it's going to happen again. But no, I mean, just the simple fact that Missouri's fielding a top 20 level team and looks like it could again, the win total aside, win total could be any number of things because there will be a lot of close games again. But it's going to be a really sound product again a year after you lose basically your entire starting offense. So, I mean, I think random disappointments or pinpointed disappointments aside, like Mizzou fans should probably be pretty excited and really happy with where the program is.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And you take your 10 wins when you can. I remember somebody might have been Power Mizzou posted something on Twitter about, would you take an 11-1 season if it meant a loss to Kansas?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, yes. Why wouldn't you? And it's 50-50. And I know that there's a lot of emotional tie to that, but, we're Missouri. You don't get 10 and 11 win seasons like just any time. You got to take them where you can get them.
Yeah, so. And especially, I mean, this is obviously the easiest SEC schedule you're going to have. And you're going to draw the short straw at some point. That's going to be, where in a year, like you'll go 7-5. That's really good some of these years. So you just got to, when everything kind of breaks right and you win your close games and you win 10 games, that's still awesome. Even if you were hoping to grab a playoff spot at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, for sure. So, what is your assessment of the job that Eli Drinkwitz has done as we enter year 6?
Yeah, I mean, It's almost been, last year was, I think, the first year that got worse, in terms of my SP Plus rankings. And I realized the record was technically worse a couple times. It was 5-5 the first year and then under 500, but that was, the close games broke the other way. They were clearly improving. They were 64th in 2020, then 53rd, then 40th. Like, things were trending in the right direction. Then they lurched to 10th, and which was the only thing that could make 19th disappointing in year 5. But no, I mean, he is. I like his roster building strategy, where you basically grab a transfer for every starter you lost. That's more or less what he's doing. And he wasn't afraid to kind of load up a little bit more in the secondary because if he thought that they were kind of inadequate in that area. So he's got a decent young player pipeline and transfers for every hole in the starting lineup, and it's working out. Obviously, the recruiting strategy has been really interesting, watching him kind of go all in on freshmen like Horn and Burden, and then kind of switch the other direction and not get as many of the blue chippers, but really lock down the proven players as they're developing. Then kind of go in on the freshmen again with Williams, Neri, and a couple of others, and they leave immediately, so he doubles down on the experience again. So obviously he's still figuring things out, but the talent level's good, and it really seems like the culture is pretty strong as well. Like they know how tough they need to be in the trenches, especially on defense. Defense sure looks loaded. It should be a really, really fun defense to watch. It's very little to complain about. Obviously, you always want to score more points, but there's still not just a whole lot to complain about.
No, and I guess when you look at all these teams, you've seen a lot of different ways that coaches go about building a roster in 2020s, and yeah, I think there is a lot of flux in how people do things. There can be a waxing and waning, but do you think the market inefficiency is addition by portal? Is it, obviously the Blue Bloods are still going to recruit high school super well and pull whoever they want, but like where is the edge when it comes to roster building as you see it?
I've been kind of paying attention to the schools dabbling more and more into like the FCS levels. Kentucky got a stud from South Dakota last year, a pass rusher who, those guys, they spend 2 or 3 years at the Dakotas or the Montanas or whatever, and they come out with the right height and weight, and they're mean as hell, and just a lot of really, really strong talent there that I think some have picked up on. Like, that was a good spot for G5 programs to pull up, and now you're seeing a lot of them go straight to a power conference. So I think that's a good one. I'm, without knowing very much at all about prices, that is kind of the pro sports in America kind of spoil us in terms of like, we know what everybody's making, but college sports and European soccer, all these things don't really give us much. We kind of have to take some guesses. So obviously it's hard to know what inefficiencies are out there without knowing the prices, but I'm guessing like an FCS star is going to be less expensive, but probably just as good, Jared Verse style, So that's been something really interesting. And obviously Drinkwitz has added a couple of FCS guys along with G5, along with guys coming down from Georgia and everything else. He's kind of dabbled in all the different kind of transfer pools there, but it is kind of, honestly, I think the inefficiency right now, though, now that I think about it, it's probably like, it's always going to be cheaper to keep your guys, I think, and, develop them in-house. They already know the culture. Yes, you're going to have to pay them more if they turn out to be really good, but you might have to pay that guy's replacement that same price, and he doesn't know the building. He doesn't know everything how it goes on. So I'm pretty sure the schools that are figuring out how to keep a lot of their guys, which is a lot easier to do at the top of the echelon, the top echelon, I guess. But that's really probably a cost saver at the end of the day, because I'm just guessing the transfer portal is pretty expensive.
Yeah, I would too. So you've already mentioned it when we were assessing Drinkwitz, so I'm going to have to follow up on it here. Close games luck, all right? The Eli Drinkwitz calling card, essentially. Is it something that teams can just be good at on purpose, or is it truly just random chance and luck?
No, there's absolutely, like my old coworker Bud Elliott and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, if you've got a good quarterback, especially a quarterback who can convert a 3rd and 3 with his legs or a quick pass or whatever, if you can run a proper 4-minute drill, proper 2-minute drill. You got a big kicker. You can rush the passer and kind of get, create a big negative play and a key 2-minute drill on the other end. Like all those things, obviously, you're gonna make yourself more likely to win a close game than lose it. The problem from Missouri is like 10-1. Like that's not, you can't maintain that. But if you can win like 6 out of every 11 or maybe 7, I don't know. That might be pushing it. There is a range there where I do think you can figure out how to create those advantages. The other advantage is just talent. Most of the close games Missouri's won, they've been a favorite in. And like when I looked at the list of like the last 15 years who has the best record in close games, it's Dabo Swinney and Urban Meyer and guys who have talent advantages in most of the games they play. So that also helps because when it comes down to it, you probably have a matchup you can go to. I think there've only been a couple of upsets in that in those 10 close wins. Most of the time, it's been like the Arkansas game last year. You were favored. It was a weird game in a lot of ways, but then when it was time to make a play, they made a play. So that probably helps too.
So now I'm thinking. I mean,
I looked it up. Let me look it up again.
I was just gonna say, like, is it the style of play that Eli has this team doing, where it creates close games, and sometimes you keep Georgia on the line a little bit longer, but more often you're keeping Middle Tennessee in it late. Like, that's not a good thing, but also you're winning these games. So I don't know. Now I'm like rethinking.
Well,
his
there was
record.
Northwestern fans used to get mad at me because when Fitzgerald had a good team, it never really graded out well on SP Plus or anything, and big part of their success was beating Eastern Illinois 20-13 or something, and it just came from the fact that they play risk-free. They play the slowest possible tempo, so the game goes by real fast, and they maybe just get to the end and they haven't had a chance to pull away. There are pieces of that, and we know that Drink will go up for it on fourth down some, but he's definitely not the most bold. He's not Lane Kiffin on fourth downs. He believes, especially when they're favored, he believes in playing that. Well, I guess what an old school coach would say, playing the percentages, even though those percentages are probably wrong, but basically just like trusting your defense when you have to, and trying to give them a long field when you have to. That's kind of why I've been assuming Prabula will win this quarterback battle. Go with the guy who can convert third downs and give his defense good field position instead of the one who will throw some picks. But there is something to that part. But yeah, I mean, I think there's not a lot of domination. Let's put it that way. Missouri's had some really fun, easy wins in the last couple of years, but there's been a lot of just grind it out and make the plays you need to in the fourth quarter, like Boston College or whatever, something like that. So
yeah. I mean, the number of times an Eli Drinkwitz team has scored 40 is, on one hand, maybe you could count it. It's not a lot.
Yeah, he's kind of an old soul. He doesn't mind taking his time, using all 60 minutes sometimes. But yeah, let's see. I'll try to pull up the list here. I did that wrong.
I mean, you're thinking LSU in 2020, he scored 45. 41 against Vanderbilt, 50 against Arkansas. That's 3. 59 against SEMO, if you want to count that. That's 4. 48 against North Texas. 52 against Louisiana Tech. 45 against New Mexico State. I think that's 6.
And part of that, too, is like once he gets the lead, he does not mind running the ball.
He really doesn't, yeah.
So that's going to be a big part of it, too. Just, survive in advance. Or like, this one's done. Let's just wrap it up here. Let's see. So last year, 6-1 in one-score games. They were favored in 5 of the wins. They were.
There you go.
That's right. They were underdogs against OU because of the quarterback situation, but they were favorites against Arkansas, Iowa, Auburn, Vandy, and BC, and they were significant favorites against BC and Vanderbilt, obviously, and kind of let that one hang for a little bit. But then the year before, obviously, they were favored against Middle Tennessee, underdogs against K-State. Oh, no. Yeah, underdogs against K-State, favored against Memphis, favored against Florida by double digits. And so, yeah, like 10-1, but 1, 2, 3, 4 of the wins came when they were favored by at least 12.5. So, those maybe aren't the same kind of come out clutch, make the big plays. It was just they messed around and they didn't put it away until late.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're still one
counts.
of the 20 best teams in the country both years. Like,
Yeah.
there's plenty right. Is just, stepping on the throat a little earlier wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, just a little less heart attack every Saturday, especially when you're playing your G5 opponents. So
That's
I'm
right.
with you. Okay, so with I think the big bugaboo with Mizzou last year was that they had such an explosive offense in 2023, and then they returned almost everybody except like 2 linemen and Cody Schrader. So, I mean, I know that explosiveness is like 3-pointers and it can be streaky, but how often does an offense return almost everyone yet regress so drastically in explosiveness?
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly, I always talk about efficiency is what you can rely on. And Missouri was still efficient last season for sure. Obviously their season long numbers were hurt by Cooks being injured here and there, but even the run game, like you're talking about, 20th in rushing success rate against plenty of good defensive fronts, but I look at like yards per successful rush it's kind of a proxy for explosiveness sometimes, and they were 131st in that. So yeah, if they needed 4 yards, they got exactly 4 yards, and that's fine. But easy points come from big plays, and that was obviously a little trickier. I mean, it was confusing last year. Like, Luther Burden's basically a decoy for half the season, and you can't really figure out why he's not getting involved as much. But then when Cook gets hurt, it becomes a lot more of a grind. And they underachieved pretty much the entire first half of the season in terms of the raw numbers. And then the second half was better. But yeah, I mean, it was just odd. It was confusing that that Burden wasn't seeing just a ton of the ball. Boston College cuts it a little close. It makes it close in the second quarter, I believe, and they immediately go deep to Burden, and it works. And then he goes back to not being targeted at all. I was like, what? I think everybody knows about him. I don't know about you. He can probably catch more passes, but who knows? There are rumors of injuries, rumors of this and that, whatever. They won 10 games. And he wasn't going to keep them from losing to Alabama or Texas A&M. So
No. And he was still the second most targeted receiver on the team.
Yeah, and in the other close game against South Carolina, he made his best play of the season. So
he did.
You can't really say it cost Missouri, but it was odd.
Yeah. I don't know. You can't bank on turnovers and explosiveness to just be a constant streak. Burr line go up every single year, but it's just drastic. It was noticeable and it was drastic. And Marquise Johnson being out was not helpful. But it was just a weird year. Okay, so you've already talked about the quarterback a little bit. Let's go into some of these position battles here. Sounds like you're pro Bo when it comes to Bo Pribula versus Sam Horn.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been assuming, knowing Drinkwitz's preferences in general, and knowing that if he has a good defense, he doesn't mind leaning on it. I just kind of assumed the ball control guy, which, maybe Pribula is one of the best passers in the country. We just haven't had to see it. Like, that wasn't what he was asked to do at Penn State. He was more of the kind of like Wildcat plus at Penn State. And in that sense, he's going to have a good tight end, a good slot receiver in Kevin Coleman Jr., one of the better, more physical yards after contact running backs in the country, and Ahmad Hardy. Sure sounds like that's a pretty good ball control situation. So you lean on that. You play really good defense. You make sure you're punting so that the other team has to go 80 yards. You're not turning the ball over. That kind of sounds like a place that Drinkwitz would be comfortable in. I've been under the assumption over these last couple of weeks that he just wants Pribula to go take the job. And he's playing well, but he hasn't had that one like 14 for 16 for 175 in a scrimmage kind of deal. And he's just wanting to get that out of him, and it hasn't happened yet. But also Horn's been just good enough to semi-realistically keep the conversation open here. And I guess that's not a bad thing. I'm still just going to assume that Pribula gets it in the end.
I mean, I'm not asking about Drinkwitz. I'm asking about you. Can Sam Horn do anything against Central Arkansas that would make you go, oh, this is the guy?
Well, I mean, if he had Marquise Johnson, if he's like a Drew Lock, Emmanuel Hall kind of situation where they hit on 2 or 3 deep balls, then I mean, I'm listening. Like I'm open to the idea, but it's just hard with Sam Horn because we just haven't seen him. I saw scrimmages or a practice here or whatever, and he was big arm, made some mistakes, so on and so forth. But we don't know what Sam Horn is after all these years and a surgery and everything else. You see the scrimmages, but got to the point where I've made so many wrong conclusions at scrimmages and practices that I just don't pay attention to them anymore, because I think I'm more accurate that way. But yeah, like he has a chance with the explosiveness, like you said. It feels like Prbula might be kind of a less explosive Brady Cook, or that sounds, I don't mean that in a bad way necessarily, just maybe even more efficient, but less explosive, making smart, quick passes, converting 3rd and 3s, that kind of deal. But, Horn's got the arm. That's the one thing we know about him. And so if he wants to impress that way, that's fine. And also, if the defense turns out to not be as good as we thought and the offense is under pressure to make more big plays, then, maybe you take a risk then. But right now, I'm just going to assume it's Prbula. It saves a lot of brain cells that way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. All right, so, Missouri brings in Ahmad Hardy, and I was a Fluff Bothwell guy, but, he also settled for the other talented Sun Belt running back transfer. When I didn't watch a ton of Monroe games, and I started to once we picked him up, and boy, that guy just took hit after hit, and he just kept going. And I guess, when you think about a call-up like from an FCS or a G5 to the SEC, you always wonder, okay, so how much of their game translates? But boy, he just got smacked so much. Is that just a unique preparation for the SEC? Like, can he avoid that first-year transfer doldrum that tend to plague portal players just because he had so much placed on him in his first year?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fifth-year senior just in terms of punishment taken already. But, yeah, I mean, with transfers, you kind of, it's the same as when, I write about quarterbacks going pro. Like, I don't know if they're going to succeed or fail, but if they succeed, here's why. And if they fail, here's why. And with Hardy, he sure took a lot of hits. He broke a lot of tackles. He had the most missed tackles per touch in the country last season. That was a fun stat to break out in the SEC preview. But, maybe it turns out while his line surely wasn't very good at Louisiana Monroe, maybe it turns out he's not super fast either, and he's just taking a lot of those hits because he's slow to the hole or something. Maybe that's why, and if he fails, maybe that's it. Maybe he just doesn't have I just talked about Missouri having almost the least explosive run game in the country last year while being extremely efficient. Maybe Hardy is the absolute perfect personification of that. But he had some big plays. He was still decent on the outside as well. He just, they were just leaning on him for absolutely everything. And, good for Louisiana Monroe. They basically turned that into a brand. They signed like a JUCO and a transfer and a really high their highest recruited or the highest rated recruit ever, who basically announced, I'm going to come here to be the next Ahmad Hardy. I'm not going to be here in a year. Yeah. But that's kind of what you have to do. You got to lean in what you can lean into. And they're going to be a super physical run team, apparently.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, if you got to be a farm team and reap the benefits of said crop while they're there, then sure, go do it. With the running back situation, though, it's always so funny to me how predictable Drinkwitz and Coach Looper are, where it's like, we got 3 guys that we really like, and then you get into conference season and one guy gets 90% of the carries, and it's like, okay. I mean, they are raving about the young freshman. And even Jamal Roberts got to see the field last year, which was such a rarity to see somebody come in on 3rd down. Is this the year where we can see more than one Missouri running back carrying the ball for, at least more than 40 carries?
Well, I mean, I guess part of that depends on how good the passing game is. So we'll see about that. But with Hardy caught 8 passes for 72 yards last season. We don't really know if he's somebody who can get super involved in the run game. So I do think there's always going to be kind of an opportunity for a 3rd down back. With Schrader, he was also the 3rd down back because he was the best at that too. But yeah, I mean, if it's Roberts, if it's, one of the youngsters, then, so be it. I do think, Roberts, the sample wasn't big. The stats were fine. It was the same kind of deal, super efficient and no big plays. But maybe it turns out he's decent, kind of, catching checkdowns and whatnot, and maybe he can carve out a niche there. So early in the season, obviously, there aren't many super easy games, but if you can get a couple guys going against Central Arkansas and theoretically a couple against Louisiana, although Louisiana's pretty solid, maybe UMass as well, you can kind of learn. I'm sure he'll try to tinker and learn what he has in that time. We'll see. And Hardy, he did take a lot of hits. If you can avoid him averaging like 20 carries per game in September, probably a good thing.
Yeah, it can't be Tyler Beatty when you're 19 years old. That's not going to work.
I mean, dude's tough as hell, but yeah, let's not test it. Let's not find out.
Yeah, don't need to experiment. I'd rather see some other guys get a shot, take off the load. So I want to move to receiver real quick, and I am just going to tell myself that Marquise Johnson is the secret to Mizzou's explosive passing offense, and the fact that he was injured last year was why Luther and Theo and everything else just kind of fell apart. So he's back. Now, there's a bunch of other young talent there, and it's mostly unproven. Can Marquise Johnson be the explosive passing attack by himself? And if not, is there a younger guy who can pick up the slack?
Yeah, I mean, the freshman, Olabode, or however you say it, like he's certainly trying to stand out. He's doing as much as he can. And Manning, I think Manning kind of showed, obviously, catching 13 passes. He wasn't really asked to do just a ridiculous amount, but caught short ones, caught long ones. He seems to have a full route tree. And if you have those guys on both sides, and then you also have a super reliable slot receiver and tight end in between, it sure sounds like that's going to be a lot for secondaries to account for. So that should open things up pretty well. And honestly, I mean, having, when you're forced to have a lot of options instead of two, like most of last season, that can benefit you as well. Obviously, the two were extremely talented last year, but still, like when you have to kind of branch out and test what you have in other guys, you sometimes find out that's, pretty good. So if you got those guys, you got the Illinois State kid who's probably, 13 yards a catch in SCS, like that's probably most of the guys who come from SCS average like 16 or 17, and that might translate. He might be more of a possession guy like Coleman's been for the most part, but yeah, spread the ball around. I think you've got enough guys who can do something that in theory, if you're making them defend the whole field, that alone opens up some downfield opportunities if the quarterback's looking for them.
Yeah. And, along those lines, with the tight ends, we know Jordan Harris blocking tight end. We know that. We know Brett Norfleet is kind of a little bit of both. And then, we got this Jude James kid who's like 3 biscuits short of what the rest of the tight ends weigh. And I'm just thinking, okay, with a healthy Brett Norfleet and this intriguing piece in Jude James, who's kind of just a lighter, he's kind of like the Michael Agnew of tight ends. Are we ever going to see a tight end pass game pick up under Drinkwitz, or is that just not his thing?
Well, there's no question that he likes a tight end who can block because he likes to run the ball when he can. So that it does feel like more of a requirement here. Like Kaufman, Rucker, Agnew back in the day, they were lined up in the slot quite a bit. They were receivers first for sure. So that alone, I mean, if it contributes to a good run game, then they're playing their role just fine. But I do want to see what Norfleet can do if he's healthy for an entire season. That was certainly like missed 2 games, really didn't look right for a few others. So his stats were pretty dismal. I mean, like 9 yards a catch, 1.4 yards per route. I usually look at like 2 as kind of the cutoff for like what's pretty good. 1.5 to 2 is good. He was at 1.4. So like, but again, we know he wasn't healthy and he did not look the part. So come in, stay 100% for a while and we'll see, because we know they like him a lot. And they liked him 2 years ago. They thought he was probably their best guy as a freshman. So, let's just see what he can do. Just keep him healthy for a while. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be the blocking guy and the skinny guy, and the Hoffman from Iowa is not very bulky either, I don't think. So yeah, you're just going to have to mix and match, but Norfleet could theoretically do it all if he can stay healthy long enough.
And he was the 3rd most targeted receiver last year, and he missed.
Right. I mean, it was a distant 3rd. 98, then 81, and then 39. But,
39, yeah.
But he's still, like, I do think, especially red zone with so far from what we've seen at Pabula, he's been really strong in the red zone, and you think he probably knows how to look for a tight end. So we'll see.
Oh, that's true. So we get to the offensive line, and you have measured a lot of different things along the line in your years of doing SP Plus. Are we at the point where snaps and starts are more important than recruiting stars and age? And I guess a follow-up to that would be, asking for a friend, can you portal 3/5 of a line in and expect improvement?
It is hard. And and you know that everybody's looking for extra linemen. So like the competition is going to be really stiff. You kind of have to take what you can get. And when you look back and realize that you are relying potentially quite a bit on a guy who started 2 games as a freshman for West Virginia last year, looks spectacular, like height, weight, looks the part completely, and might be an absolute stud. His stats, as far as I can, like I use like blown block rate from Sports Info Solutions, and his was 1.4%, which is good. No, excuse me, no blown run blocks, 1 sack, attributed to him over like 200 something blocks, like solid, absolutely solid. But then you realize he started twice for West Virginia last year, and you realize like, boy, that is kind of dicey. You'd much prefer to just have your own guys working up through up the ladder through the years. Now in the SEC, like A&M brings back their offensive line. I think A&M's I think I appear to be higher on A&M than some people. I kind of talk myself into them accidentally, but like for the most part, a whole hell of a lot of teams have brand new offensive lines this year. That does feel like a thing, maybe a product of the portal era and a product of COVID years of eligibility phasing out, that everybody's kind of dicey up front. So that's, Missouri's got company at least. And again, like height, weight, good across the board for the most part. And you've got experience in Green and Tollison. And it wouldn't surprise me if this line was solid, but you're right. Like it's easily the biggest question mark for well, I was going to say for the offense, but really for the team. Once you start to kind of piece things together and realize like this isn't not a lot of proven here.
And Caden Green's now taking snaps at tackle. Curtis Piegler, who we've not heard a lot about. I'm excited to see him play, but he's now playing. I'm like, okay, well, we brought in a bunch of transfers, and now I don't even know what to think at this point.
I just have to wait and see. And I mean, the schedule helps a little bit in that regard, just in terms of, Central Arkansas. Louisiana's always got some really good linemen for a Sun Belt team, but you think you should be able to carve out advantages there. Kansas, I don't think that's going to be one of their strengths. South Carolina is starting over on the defensive line. And then UMass. So you can maybe get away with figuring things out for a few weeks. But yeah, I mean, they clearly don't quite know what they have just yet.
So on the defensive side, Blake Baker, he solves every problem with aggression, for better or worse.
That's why I love him. Yeah.
I love him too. He's a lot of fun. He's very entertaining. And then you get Corey Batum. And, when you heard about the hire, there's a lot of like, philosophically we agree. I'm like, okay, so this is not really going to be a huge switch. And then they kind of turn into this low havoc, bend, don't break defense. I'm like, okay, so is that the new Corey Batum, or was that just a byproduct of missing like the havoc creators and like Darius Smith and Khalil Jacobs halfway through the year?
Yeah, I mean, so like breaking it out by unit, their havoc rate from the defensive line ranked 16th in the nation. It was a little higher than average. Linebackers were just there to gatekeep and tackle. They weren't really making a ton of plays, and the DBs regressed a little bit as well in that regard. They're about average overall. So in theory, you can kind of make the case that they were blitzing a pretty average amount. Really, just kind of seemed like he trusted or he had to trust his defensive front to get the pressure when they needed to get pressure. And the sack numbers were still solid, especially on passing downs when they could pin their ears back. They were 11th in passing down success rate, 33rd overall. That's certainly on blitz downs. I don't really write about blitz downs all that often anymore, but I still track it. They were 3rd in that in terms of sack rate. So when they were able to pin their ears back, they still got there, but it was at least a little bit more of a reactive defense. And I mean, those Alabama, Kirby Smart early 2010s defenses didn't make a lot of havoc plays either. They just gang tackled everybody for 1 yard gains on every play. So, that works too. If you want to just stop everything for 1 yard, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes like the offense too. Like, it doesn't matter how you score points, just do it. Like, just win the game. I'm with you. Obviously, one is more entertaining to me, but I mean, they import all these Georgia guys. We got, some killers at linebacker, an incredibly deep linebacking core. It kind of feels like it's just the secondary, and like, are they going to improve? And you've always talked about older secondaries or better secondaries. I mean, is there enough experience now, especially with like the never aging Jalen Catalon in there?
Yeah, it really is. Jalen Catalon's seen the world. Good for him. No, he like I said, for the most part, the transfers seem to be mainly wherever you lost the starter at a guy. He added a couple pass rushers as well, like more than he lost. Well, no, actually, I guess it ended up being the same. But yeah, the secondary was clearly the area of concern. Just when you think of like 5 of the top 6 returning and still adding 4 guys, is clearly he thought he needed more options in the secondary. And Catalon, Stephen Hall didn't do anything for me from a stat standpoint, but all we've heard about is that he's probably the hardest worker of the bunch and really, really trying to get in a position to contribute. So, he's probably the most important just because the other guys are kind of safeties first. I enjoyed that he took a chance on Santana Banner, another guy who hasn't done just a ton, especially from like a havoc standpoint necessarily, but he's a 6'3", 210 safety who played for a very physical head coach. So hell yeah, let's take a chance on that guy. I enjoyed that. I don't know if it'll work, but I liked it. But no, Hall seems to be the most important thing there because the cornerback situation wasn't horrible. None of this was terrible. Like, we've seen a lot of terrible pass defenses over the last however long, and this one was merely just solid and not quite as good as we expected it to be. But I mean, Norwood and Pride at corner are still very, very solid. Carnell's still a awesome nickel. And so it could definitely be worse. But like I said, just the number of transfers gives away that he felt this was an area he needed to upgrade.
No. Also, Santana Banner, the nickname is Beans. I mean, you cannot beat Beans Banner.
I've not heard a single thing I dislike about him yet.
And yeah, for the corners, I think you go from Ennis Racestraw and Chris Abrams-Drain, which are just pass breakup machines, to Dre Norwood, who's great coverage, he's probably the best breakup corner that we had. And then Toriana Pride in first year, Nick DeLoach kind of first seeing the field and like just kind of getting their feet under him. And I don't really think, it didn't seem like, and maybe, your numbers say it a little bit different. It never felt like the corners were responsible for the busts. It was always the safeties who were either biting up too hard or something, or just not passing it off correctly. And I'm just hoping another year, more experience, Marvin Burks has figured it out, that sort of thing. But, it's just, you never know until you see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there were certainly breakdowns in that area. And Norwood's like coverage numbers, QPR allowed, that kind of thing was pretty good. He was at 37.8, which isn't elite, but it's good. You want lower the better. And then let's see, Pride's was 69.5, which is pretty average. It's still not terrible, but it's not elite, obviously. So yeah, that second corner, and then Deloach was at 74.5 in a small sample. So yeah, there's no reason, like, it might not be amazing, but it's not going to be terrible. And I do think if Hall can work his way in and play a role because of how much he's improved, not just because the other guys stink or whatever, then that would be very welcome. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like the first year in the past 2 years where Mizzou won't have the most, the highest returning production in the SEC, or at least up there, or even in the nation, which is very weird to see. But, you've obviously written about all the teams. You're doing all the previews. So I know you always say I'm not SP+. So I'll say, what do you and SP+ think of Missouri this year? Do you have a record guess or just a general vibes check?
I mean, I still think the vibes are pretty good. Like, not playoff good, but I don't, like I said, those opportunities will come and you hate to waste them. But for the most part, just like play a top 20 level. Number one, that's almost playoff level at this point. It's not that far. But no, I mean, I think the vibes are fine. Obviously, the quarterback, the first time we see a great or terrible play from the quarterback is going to go a long way in determining those vibes as well. But, the schedule's manageable up front. You've got a defense to lean on. Obviously I've seen a lot of stupid Missouri-Kansas games in my day. And so that one, that's the ultimate vibe check right out of the bat. Right out of the gate. I even remember like my freshman year, second game was Kansas, beat up on a minnow. I think it was Bowling Green in the first week in 97, go to Kansas with thinking, okay, this is it. This is our breakthrough. This is going to be amazing, and lose 15-7, turn the ball over like 6 times. It was awful. And obviously that was there and not in Columbia. But, stupid things can happen in that game, but you're still a projected favorite. This is the SP Plus part talking. You're 39 points in the first game, 11 in the second, 20 in the third. Slight favorite against South Carolina, but it's a toss-up at least. And then obviously UMass is going to be comfortable. So you're going to be either probably looking at 4-1 or 5-0 heading into the Alabama game, things get obviously much trickier from there. Lots of close games, lots of, who the hell knows what Auburn's going to be. Vanderbilt is going to depend on, Pavia is going to take another 418 hits, and he might be Alabama Pavia, he might be Tennessee Pavia. You don't really know. A&M, like I said, you get A&M at home, and that's good, but I really think A&M's top 10 caliber this year. That was one of those where I did my ifs list. I just have like a running list of pieces that I do after my previews that just kind of get me ready for the season. And the ifs list is great. Just, that's an old Rock M trope about how many ifs does it take to make this team a national title contender or whatever. It only took me 3 with A&M. That's like Penn State and Alabama were the top 2, which also kind of threw me off a little bit. They were the only with 2 ifs. And then the 3 ifs batch was Georgia and Texas and Ohio State and Texas A&M. They're real close. We don't know that Marcel Reed has massive upside, but we know he's solid. Their offensive line is, like I said, experienced in a sea of inexperienced offensive lines. Their defensive line should be fine at worst, and their running backs are awesome. So Mike Elko, that sounds like just a mega Mike Elko team, and they're going to be they're going to be a challenge, but it is in Columbia. And Missouri, if Missouri can handle Vanderbilt the week before, that helps. But yeah, I mean, you get Mississippi State, that should be solid. But then Arkansas and Oklahoma to end the season, who the hell knows about either one of those? Arkansas either one could be on an interim coach. Oklahoma could be playing for a playoff spot at the same time. Like, there's no telling. So, it's gonna be a ride. Let's see, the SP Plus projection average win total is 7.8. I was gonna say 8-4, so that's probably about the right neighborhood. But yeah, I mean, just start fast, get to 5-0, and then just see what happens after that.
Yeah, I mean, there are no easy SEC schedules, but of them, this is one of the easiest.
Yeah, and you still end with at Oklahoma and at Arkansas and at Auburn and Alabama and A&M coming here and South Carolina coming here. So there's still a lot.
You have 8 home games, and yet it's still like, how do you get to 8 wins? It's just it's wild. And you look at the offense and you go, all right, this is a bridge transition year, and then you look at the defense and go,
yeah, you don't want to waste the
totally
defense. Yeah.
I have a very hard read on this team, and I think there's just too many questions on what they're going to be. And you talk about your pieces, like, well, if these transfers hit or if these transfers hit, and it's like, yeah, who knows? So I just don't know what to expect. But I'm glad the vibes are good with you. That's always nice to hear. But yeah, hey, let's not bury the lead. You wrote a book.
Yeah. It's got a bunch of Notre Dame butts on the cover, but buy it anyway.
Butts are good, right? It's a butt economy in college football.
This proves I know ball. That's what Mike Golick Jr. said.
That's right. So tell us about it. What'd you write about?
Yeah, Forward Progress, the definitive guide to the future of college football. And for a definitive guide, it sure has a lot of I don't knows in it, but that's just the way this is going to be. It was with all the change that has happened over the last few years. I started realizing at some point that I didn't really know where I thought things should go anymore. Like, when I was at SB Nation in 2017, had a big, I ran for college football commissioner, and we had we had the election website and the platform pieces, and I had 9 major pieces of the campaign and everything. And that was at that point in time, I very much knew what I wanted college football to become. It was funny because I've gotten my way on 7 of those 9. But everything that I was worried about has gotten worse because there's no commissioner. So it was kind of odd the way that played out. But regardless, I just found myself in a situation where I was just reacting to things, and this is good and this is bad and this I'm worried about and whatever. And I figured it was worthwhile to step back and kind of take all these different change factors and one at a time kind of walk through how and why things have happened, how things might play out moving forward, what warning signs to look for moving forward. Because that was one, I joked that every change we don't like in college football, it's going to kill college football. The sport's dead already. No, attendance is good. TV ratings are good. There's no sign that there's actually a problem. but there wasn't a sign that there was a problem for NASCAR until there suddenly was, and boxing and college basketball kind of, and baseball kind of. So just kind of walk through what I felt that maybe the biggest lessons to learn from these other sports were, like, don't ignore your base, even though the casuals are sexy and rich. Make sure the base is getting the games it wants. Make sure the base is getting what it wants, because the casuals might go away, and you don't want to find out what happens in that case. But yeah, like, there was just it's kind of what I've been saying is it's half history book, half manifesto, more or less, because it's not really a guide to the future so much as what I think should happen in the future after we walk through how we got to this point in time.
I'm excited to read it. Where can people find this tome?
Well, apparently in 2025, the way you sell books is to get everybody to pre-order it on Amazon, and rig the algorithm in your favor. So that sounds like a pretty good plan. If you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and hop over pre-order. If you're kind of anti-Amazon, bookshop.org also works. And apparently somebody on social, they ordered it on bookshop.org, and they already got it. So
wow.
Maybe go over there and you can read it before September 2nd, but I think it all counts just the same, so it's fine. But that's apparently what you do. It should be in stores and everything, but it sounds like helping the most is just convincing the Amazon algorithm that this book is very popular. You should put it very prominently on your pages.
That's right. Okay, so you all have your marching orders. Go pre-order Bill's book. Make him money. He deserves it. And yeah, we'll dive into the 2025 season. We'll journey together. You can always read Bill on ESPN. Always worth a subscription. Check out all of his analysis on the football season. And we'll try to get you back on before another year passes by so we can catch up on Mizzou stuff. But until then, appreciate the time, Bill. Always good to talk to you.
Absolutely. And if you find me in the football stadium for the first quarter of games that I usually stay for before I get antsy and head back home, I'll if you bring a book in, I will sign it in my section if you find me. There's like 2 people I think who probably listen to this who know where I am in the stadium. But yeah, find me and I'll sign it.
Operation Find Bill at a Mizzou game with a book.
That's right.
Okay. That's the challenge. Thank you, Bill. It's good talking to you.
Absolutely.
Go buy Bill's book. All right? I know there's like 18 of you listening to this show. Go pre-order it on Amazon. Let's rig the algorithm to the best of our ability. Let's make our boys' book #1 book in America. Can we do that? We can do that. We appreciate Bill coming by. Tremendous author, obviously a very smart guy. SP Plus speaks for itself at this point. We are, we're very excited. We're counting down the days to the kickoff. And like you said, he's going to be around, so if you see him in the audience, as far as walking around the stands, go say hi and say, hey, good job with the book, and bring your book. Maybe we can do a little Where's Waldo, and, we can point him out and make him embarrassed and have him leave earlier than he wants to. But we appreciate his time. Obviously, he's on the press tour right now. You can listen to any of the podcasts that he's jumping on promoting his book and just hear the good wisdom of Bill Connelly. And, of course, we'll be back next week. Nathan Hurst will be back. We'll be diving into full breakdowns of the team as we get ready for the Central Arkansas game that's kicking off not too long from now, 2 Thursdays from now. But that is going to be the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt H.E. Edwards. He's at Burst of Hurst. Of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rock M Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.